Welcome to Horrid and Vicious, a true crime podcast. I'm Candy.
And I'm Kota.
And this is episode 8, The Disappearance of Linda Riley.
Okay, so like I was just telling you, I couldn't find a lot of information of like Linda's life before this. I could not find the obituary. I could not find literally anything other than like the case itself. So, I'm gonna just start off by saying this one involves kidnapping or abduction, mentions of domestic violence, and some like slight hinting towards sexual abuse. It's not really like anything explicit or anything like that actually happens. It's just a quick mention of something. And that's about it for the warnings. Murder, obviously, because this is a true crime podcast. The usual.
That's unfortunate. One of these days we'll do a survivor case.
I really think we should, because I'm starting to get depressed.
Real.
So, on February 27th of 2012, 53-year-old Linda Riley's friend and neighbor, April Robertson, reported her missing. And this is because she had called Linda a few times and she heard the phone ring but didn't hear like any movement in the house besides Linda's dogs. And Linda like would never leave her dogs for an extended period of time. She was known as like an avid animal lover. So this was weird. So she goes over to Linda's house and she knocks on the door a few times and there's still no response from Linda. So she opens the door and kind of lets herself in because, like, at this point, she's, like, thinking that, you know, she's freaking out that there's something, you know, wrong because her dogs are still in the house, which is not normal for Linda. And then when she enters Linda's house, she finds signs of a struggle, like a broken necklace, some teacups, just some stuff strewn about the house that wasn't normal. So she calls and reports Linda missing because Linda's nowhere to be found. There's signs of a struggle in her house. Just all sorts of not normal, crazy stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
So the police come and they kind of look around Linda's house to see if there's anything, like any evidence of who could have taken Linda or if Linda would have gone anywhere without saying anything. But they find her cell phone and her purse still in her house, which for a woman is a huge red flag because you never leave without your purse, and nobody, especially in 2012, like nowadays, more recent times, people don't leave without their phones, you know?
Yeah, like 2012, like everybody was starting to have a cell phone by then.
Yep. They were very common to have.
A grown adult would take their phone.
Yep, especially if, like, you're going to go somewhere and your dogs are home.
Even if she did manage to leave her phone, the purse still wouldn't make sense.
Right, because that's, like, your ID and your money and stuff. Like, you kind of, if you're going somewhere, you kind of need that. I mean, if it is still, like, maybe if she had just gotten a phone and wasn't used to having it, maybe she'd forget it. But, like, especially somebody
your purse
in her age
you take
group.
with you, you need that stuff. You wouldn't forget that. And also, if your phone was there with your purse, you probably would have just tossed your phone in your purse and not left it, but...
Exactly, because at this point we have phones that actually fit in purses, you know?
Yeah, by 2012, I mean, I had a flip phone before that, and flip phones fit in purses. And by 2012, you've got, like, touchscreen phones.
Yeah.
So
I had, like, I think it was a 4S. I don't remember.
I mean, in 2012, I still
12.
had one of those, what is it, the little, like, slider ones with the keyboard.
Like the BlackBerry?
I don't think mine was a BlackBerry. Mine was, like, even more off-brand. But
my mom had a BlackBerry, and I
had a little phone. It had like a screen on top that you couldn't really actually do anything on. It just showed you like the time. Yeah. And then it would show your stuff on it, but you would have to scroll, like you'd have to push it upwards to get that keyboard.
It's kind of crazy.
Like physical buttons. Like
in the span of like 10 years, how much technology has changed.
Truly, truly. It's huge. I mean, people had iPods in 2012. You had a separate device for your music.
And now you can just have it all in one.
Yeah. Now you can do literally almost anything on your phone.
No, for real.
Like,
I did most of my
you don't even need a
research for this
computer. You
case.
can play games on your phone. You can play,
You got a game
like, you
on
can
your
talk
phone?
to people. You can do whatever. You can do
You can do it.
anything. You can
phone
look
is a mini
up
computer.
whatever you want. You can use a calculator. You can call people. You can do whatever. Phones are an incredible thing now.
I love technology.
I kind of miss
love technology.
like outside, but
I still go outside. I just bring my phone with me.
I would, but I've got a computer now. Why do all that?
I mean, fair. Why go outside when
if
can
I
play
had
Minecraft?
like my yard instead of like a place where other people were, then I would go outside. I just don't really want to be around other people.
That's
why I'm every time I talk to Skylar, I'm like, it is a necessity when we move to get a yard.
I love yards.
And every time I'm like, it's for the dog, but it's also for me.
It's for the dog, but also me.
So that the dog can go run around outside and I can go sit with him while he runs around outside.
It was so nice out yesterday. It was like 66 out, I think, yesterday. Maybe even it got up to the 70s. I don't really know. I wasn't paying attention. And sunny. Oh, it was so nice.
It was like that a little bit this weekend here, but yesterday it snowed, so.
It's 32 degrees now.
Yeah, it's like 20 degrees right now.
It's gonna get down to 20 here. Anyway.
Oops.
So, on February 27th, the same day, a missing persons alert is sent out for Linda. Now, I'm just going to talk about, like, the little bit of information about Linda I could find was in, I don't remember the name of it, but it was like a true crime show. And they say there that Linda's family describes her as a kind, fun-loving person with a love for animals, and that she's devoted to her dogs, and she's someone who always saw the good in people. But that meant sometimes she was a little bit too trusting of strangers. Now, her being a little too trusting of strangers doesn't really have much to do with this case, and we'll get into that in a second. But she's just a very trusting and kind person, from the little details I was able to find about her, which I think is why certain things maybe transpired the way that they did, with some situations involving a good friend of hers named Rothe. Now, the missing person alert is sent out on the 27th. Jay allegedly, was on a fishing trip, but he voluntarily appears on 28th, seemingly wanting to help police find Linda. Now, the funny thing about Jay, he was asked if anyone knew, like, if he knew of anybody that would have done something to Linda, or if Linda had any issues with anybody that he knew of, and he keeps talking about the Floyd guy, who apparently stumbled into Linda's home drunk and, like, scared her, and he says, oh, she had to push him out. Jay doesn't know anything about Floyd, other than that he's black and Linda knows him, and he showed up to her house drunk. So he's immediately pointing a finger at somebody else, which, I mean, at this point, he just seems like a really concerned friend. Like, he just really wants to find Linda, wants to, help the police find her. And he claims that she lives in a really bad neighborhood, like, stuff's always happening there. I think in his in the interview, he says, just the other day, some kid got shot right around the corner or something like that. Jesus. So, keep in mind, this interview is voluntary, and he's being interviewed by Detective Neil McCamus. And while he's talking to Detective McCamus, he accidentally reveals something that only Linda's abductor would have known. So, Neil asks Jay if he was sure Linda didn't just decide to up and leave and she wasn't actually missing. And Jay says, she wouldn't leave without her dogs and stuff, man. But he had no way of knowing that Linda's dogs were still at her house. So that's a massive red flag for Detective McCamus. And now they're starting to see Jay as more of a suspect than a concerned friend. But that's not enough to arrest him.
Yeah,
so
obviously from what you're saying, he is the person who did it. But
yeah, that one line.
Yeah. it's kind of crazy because, I mean, if he, like, knows people around her and, like, the neighbor could have said something if they're, like, doing these searches or whatever. The neighbor could have been like, she left the dogs at home. So that's, like, to me, that doesn't seem like that much to go on at all.
Which is why he could have can't arrest him for that. Like, he could have, yeah. And that's why they can't arrest him for that.
So,
but,
yeah. I mean,
the next day, he shows up with conveniently more information about some potential suspects. So he starts talking about Linda's ex-husband, who was allegedly abusive, and he goes into detail about how Linda had bruises from him, and how he threatened to shoot her at one point, and he lists several of Linda's male friends, kind of like he's volunteering suspects. He's a lot less calm than he was yesterday. And he also reveals something that he had left out the day prior. So when McCamus asked if he had ever had any physical altercations with Linda, originally he said no, and that they just, like, had some verbal arguments. But this time, he reveals that there was an instance where, and this is his words, she thought I hit her. And that's how he talks, by the way. And that's why I'm saying it like that.
She thought that he hit her?
Like, so in
why would she think that unless she felt it?
So the way that he describes it is, like, they were driving, I guess, and she was trying to get out of the car, and he had, like, pushed her or something, and his fist, like, almost went into her mouth. But Linda took this a little bit more seriously.
Punch her in the jaw.
So in November of 2011, Linda actually reported that Jay had assaulted her after she had refused to have sex with him. She said that he had grabbed her by the neck and tried to shove his fist in her mouth.
Ew.
Yeah, so he didn't punch her, but that's still, like, a really gross and weird, violent thing to do to somebody. Like, you're just trying to put your fist in their mouth? Like, that's so gross.
That's weird.
It's so weird. And they were in his truck or his van while this was happening. So, like, she kind of can't go anywhere. She's in a van, probably has her seatbelt on because, like, safety first. Yeah, just a weird... no, and it's supposed to be your friend, and he's sitting there shoving his fist in your mouth. Gross. So...
I can't believe they would be in contact after that. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's a few red flags.
Like,
in this
it's
friendship.
bad enough that you file the police report and you're still around this guy?
Yeah. And that's why...
Order. Which restraining orders, they don't keep people from killing you, but at least they can show that this person had a motive.
Right, but that's why I think Linda's family said that she was just too trusting of people. Like, Jay was her friend. She wanted to stay friends with him. They had a little bit of an intimate relationship. They were having sex. Consensually. So, I mean, I can understand why she wouldn't want to necessarily cut him off if she's a really trusting person, but I mean, that's a big red flag that she just kind of skipped over.
And again, I mean, obviously it's not her fault.
No, absolutely not. Jay is a little freak.
Yeah, I mean, still, I personally wouldn't be around that person anymore.
Yeah, no. So, detectives ask some of Linda's other friends about her relationship with Jay, and they say that Linda was actually afraid of him and that he was often violent towards her. So, with that information and the information from the day prior, they ask Jay to take a polygraph test, which obviously that's not admissible in court, but it can be used as an interrogation what's the word I'm looking for? An interrogation strategy? I guess, yeah. I don't know. So he seems to realize that now he's, not just being looked at like a concerned friend. But he does agree to a polygraph, and he also agrees to allow detectives to search his van for evidence. And detectives find human blood in his van. And this blood is a 99.99% match to Linda Riley.
Oh my god.
Not only that, Linda's neighbor reports seeing Jay's van in Linda's driveway at midnight on the 27th.
Her neighbor. Here's the thing is, like, when you're alive, you don't want to have, like, nosy neighbors, but they really come in handy when somebody gets hurt like this and gets kidnapped and stuff. Having a nosy neighbor might not save your life, but at least they can get you justice. Because this is not the first case where I've seen a nosy neighbor be the one to figure things out.
I wouldn't call April. They were friends, so when she heard
but, like,
the phone ring,
she's looking out the window and looking and remembering a van that's in the driveway in the middle of the night.
She's probably like, that little freak is here again with his stupid van.
Like, I don't think any of my neighbors would pay enough attention for that.
Right.
I mean, I guess if you're friends, it makes more sense still. But I don't know. Personally, I don't want somebody paying that much attention to my business, but obviously it's a good thing when it comes to stuff like this.
Right, like don't be a nosy neighbor unless there's a little freak hanging around your hanging out around your neighbor.
My neighbors, I don't think they would necessarily notice like a car pulling up, since it's obviously like there's a bunch of cars here. I live in a building, but they did one time actually when I got out of my car when I came home. One of my neighbors was outside smoking, and he was like, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know, like, I saw a guy in the hallway and it kind of looked like he was going near your door."
And that was really nice of him to say that.
And I mean, I've never seen anybody doing that stuff, really. And for the most part, the whole, like, my place, we're technically in not a great area, but, like, for the most part, my neighbors seem pretty fine. Occasionally, like, crackheads come into the building and the neighbors chase them out.
I mean, as they should. And I think a lot of neighborhoods that are like quote unquote bad neighborhoods, you'll find
the neighbors look out for each other.
They look out for each other because they know it's a bad area and nobody wants anything happening to anybody at the end of the day.
None of the bad things in those areas actually come from the neighbors. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's not like the people who are like just trying to live their lives there. It's like some person who thinks they're a thug and usually isn't even actually like that kind of person. They just think like that they're cool or whatever. So I don't know, like I've always lived in like what is considered rough neighborhoods, and the neighbors were always like friends with my mom because I was a little kid, so they weren't friends with me, but they were always friends with my mom. Like she knew them,
and I think that's really nice. Like there's a sense of community when you have a neighborhood like that and you can rely on each other. I live in like it's an area that's considered pretty nice. And I have like one neighbor that I would trust, and she's directly next door to me. So if she's on vacation, I'm like, well, if my crazy neighbors decide to come over here and kill me, I guess I'm just dead.
Anyway.
Getting back on topic. On March 3rd, Jay Rothe voluntarily returns to the police station once again. This is his third time voluntarily going up there.
And he just doesn't realize he should just get a lawyer.
No, like...
He's kind of stupid.
He didn't even get called in for questioning. He for real just went up there the next day and was like, oh yeah, this Floyd guy has been a real problem for Linda. You should check him out.
And check out all of these other guys. She's got all these male friends. Ew.
I don't know Floyd's last name, but I do know that he showed up to her house drunk, and also he's black.
Get him. He's black. That's what he said.
Yeah. Pretty much.
He thought that the cops would be racist and it would work for him.
And it didn't. I think I forgot to mention this is in Springfield, Missouri.
Oh my god. You did forget to mention that.
I did forget to mention that.
You still live in Springfield.
That's so great. Why do you have connections to like all of these true crime cases, bro?
Well,
I swear to God.
Well, no, because here's the thing: the Gypsy Rose thing. Like again, that was Springfield, Missouri. That's the same place.
So, don't go to Springfield, Missouri, guys.
Don't go to Springfield, Missouri, because I left, and I consider myself the one who got out. Whenever I look at like the people who I knew there.
My goodness.
Like none of them are ever gonna leave. They're going to live there forever and be in that little bubble forever.
Well, you know what? At least they're not Jay Rothe.
Yeah, shit. This happened in 2012. I lived there. I was there.
You were there. A child.
What was the address? I want to see how far away it is from the place I was living at the time.
See, the funny thing is I found somewhere that did have the address, but I forgot. So I might send, if I can find it. If I can find it, I'll send it to you. I found, okay, so for this case, I found, like, the press releases and court documents and, like, all, like, a ton of articles about, like, this situation, like, what happened. But I couldn't find any obituaries for Linda. I couldn't find, like, just any statements from her family or anything. The only thing I found on YouTube was the video of Jay's first interrogation.
Oh
and that's it. And it wasn't even, again, it's not even an interrogation. I'm just calling it that. It was still it was voluntary. Like, these past 3 times that he's gone into the police station, he has gone there on his own will. The police don't even need to look for him because he's literally just hanging out there. Like, I got some more information for you.
Oh my gosh. He's, like, stupid. This article that I clicked on has his picture. He looks dumb.
Yeah, he is
How'd
dumb.
you get that far in life? Like, he's old. How'd you get that far in life?
Yeah, he's like 65.
And then, like, do this. How do you get that old and then do this shit?
Well, we're gonna get into that. So, not only does he voluntarily return to the police station again, they ask him, like, to have an explanation for why he has Linda's blood in his van. He does not have an explanation for that. And unsurprisingly, he does fail his polygraph test. And like I said earlier, it's not admissible in court, but they can use the results of the polygraph for the interrogation to get an admission. And this time, when he fails the polygraph test, it does turn into more of an interrogation. They start putting pressure on him, and he is visibly shaken. He's not the concerned friend that they saw on February 28th. He is suspect number 1, and he knows it. So, Detective McCamus reveals that other detectives had been searching his home and his van, and Jay is, like, visibly taken aback and fearful at this revelation. And Detective McCamus keeps, like, using Jay's son to add more pressure. So he keeps saying things like, oh, I know you didn't mean to do this. Your son knows that you're a good man. Like, this had to have been just a freak accident. Like how detectives put on pressure during interrogations. Because at this point, Jay just, he's just freaking out,
Yeah. Obviously, he keeps going in there even though nobody's asking him to.
Literally went up there 3 times voluntarily. I'm like, of course they're gonna figure out that it was you. Like, he literally made himself a suspect day 1, like an hour in.
What's the word? Like the overcompensating for it. If
he was overcompensating,
like,
yes,
he was trying so hard to be helpful, but it proved that he was the one who did it.
Yeah,
by doing
literally.
Because he was like, I'm helping so much. Clearly, I'm a good guy. As he actively dug the hole deeper.
That's literally why I wanted to do this case. Like, they've heard that one line about his dog, and then he just spiraled. He just completely lost it.
I'm really sad by something I accidentally found in an article just now.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that.
Yeah.
So, after Detective McCamus applies more and more pressure, he finally admits to murdering Linda, though he does say that it's a freak accident. And he says that he and Linda were having a conversation about some of her guy friends sitting on her couch when Linda got upset. They had like a small, I guess, scuffle where I think he tried to pull her down on the couch and she spun and hit her head. So he says, I don't know, I guess things happen. I didn't mean to do anything. So at this point, Linda is still alive. Like, she just kind of hit her head a little bit. Like, she's passed out, but she's alive. But instead of seeking medical care for her, he decides to take her to his place. Loads her up in his van and drives her to his house.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't really understand the logic there. Like, all he had to do was call 911 and say, hey, my friend and I were having a discussion. It got a little heated. She fell. She hit her head. I want to make sure she's okay. Can you guys come check her out?
Jesus.
Choices. So he says that Linda woke up on the ride to his house, and then he ended up helping her inside. And they spoke for 20 to 30 minutes before heading to bed that night. And what's funny about that is Jay sent a text to Linda the night she disappeared, saying that he got home okay. And in his first interview, he says, "'Cause she worries about me." But he reveals that he actually sent this text to her because he didn't want anybody to know that he had her in his house that night.
Obviously. Jesus.
Yeah. So, like, he's trying to cover his tracks.
Address. It's 8 minutes away from where I lived.
That's crazy.
So, just under how far Gypsy Rose lived away. It's in the other direction,
That's so crazy.
Yeah, I didn't hear about this, though. I mean, I was 2012. I was 12, so.
Okay, well, I found a lot of articles, but I didn't find much, like, media coverage about this. Like I said, the only videos I found on YouTube were of the first interview with Jay. Like, there's really not a lot of people talking about this case.
Yeah. And as someone who, like, lived there, I feel like kind of like I should know about this. Like, yeah, I was 12. I wasn't looking at that stuff. But, like, it seems kind of crazy to me that I was right there.
And I'm sure
I didn't know about this.
In the news at some point, but...
Yeah, probably right when it was happening. Probably when she got reported missing, it was in the news a little bit. When they found her body, it was reported sort of thing and stuff like that. But, like, I don't know. I didn't hear about it. And, like, I mean, by 2012, we weren't really watching the news that much.
No, I was not. As a 12-year-old, I was on YouTube.
Even by then, I don't think we even had to check the news for school closing stuff at that point. I think that we just checked.
No,
there was a website for it by then. I know, like, in like 2008, you had to turn on the news because I used to have to do that when I was little.
Yeah.
But by 2012, I think that there were like websites that they would just update to tell you if schools were closed. So I don't think I watched the news at all by then.
Well, and
when we were in the car, my mom's car had an aux cord, so I was playing music on the aux. We weren't listening to the radio, so there wouldn't be news on there either.
Which I'm sure that's a lot of people didn't hear about this. I mean, adults probably did.
And we lived right there.
And people that obviously knew Linda.
I mean, even though I was 12, if my mom had heard about it, she would have been talking about it. I would have heard.
Yeah.
But, I mean, she could have. I might have forgot it, but...
Yeah, because you black stuff out when you're a kid, you know?
I was 12. I don't remember much. I just remember, like, hating my life. Like,
that's so real.
And that I hated that I had to walk to school. I just hated it. I hated everything.
It'd be like that.
And being I remember Katy Perry.
Katy Perry.
That's all I got.
That's pretty good. That's more than I have.
I remember listening to the song I Kissed a Girl sometimes when I had to walk home from school.
I remember the distinct smell of Axe body spray mixed with BO.
Ew.
Because middle school.
Gross.
That's what I remember.
That's a bad smell.
Terrible. Terrible
I don't
smell.
remember much about it, actually, at all.
I
remember where my music class was, but I can't remember any of the rest of the layout.
I remember the art hall of my middle school, and I remember, like, generally where my locker was, but if I went in there now, I'm sure I would be lost.
Oh my god, my locker. I definitely had one, but where?
My locker was so messy. I had so many papers just chilling.
Yeah, because that was when I was in middle school, so I was going to middle school, like, 10 minutes away from where this happened. Probably
That's
when
so
it happened, you know? Because my school was right next to my house, so...
I'm going to make it a point to find cases that are like 10 minutes away from you.
Now, oh, God. Every time you mention something, you're going to be like, also, this takes place in Springfield, Missouri. I'm, oh, also, this takes place in this place that you also lived.
So, I just talked about how Jay sent her the text because he didn't want anybody else to know that he had her that night. The pair woke up at around 10 a.m. the next morning, and Jay got angry with Linda because she apparently pushed his cat off of her lap, which, like, okay, I can see why you'd get upset with somebody for doing that, but also cats tend to keep people in bed for, like, ever, and I'm sure, like, she just wanted to get up and go home, and I know this because Jay then says that after she did that, it was around that time that she decided to walk around Jay to get to the door to leave.
And he didn't take that well.
No, he says that Linda swung at him first. So he backhanded her so hard that she fell and hit her head on a cabinet by Jay's sink. And then Jay says, I guess she didn't come around. And then he says, this hurts me so much, man. I really truly cared. I didn't do it on purpose.
Ugh.
So instead of, instead of calling 911 and explaining what happened to get Linda medical attention, he just cleans up the blood in his house, takes her body to Aldrich, where he burned her body and fished for 3 to 4 hours.
Bro went fishing after?
No, not after. During.
During?
While her body was burning, he went fishing.
That's psychotic.
He said, I couldn't even watch. It made me sick. I didn't know what to do. She was my best friend. I didn't mean to hurt her.
I will say, dude, like, looking at their pictures, they look like every other person their age in Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah.
Like, as someone who lived there, everybody looks like them.
That's good to know. I had a hard time finding pictures of Linda. I found a few.
There was a picture in this article that I'm reading right now that also has his picture. Well, I'm not reading it. I clicked on it. I'm not reading it because you're talking. But yeah. It's got, like, this picture of her, and I'm like, I could have met her. Like, she looks like every woman I ever met in Springfield.
And not only did he fish for 3 to 4 hours, I don't even think he caught anything.
Loser.
I know. The fish were like, damn, you are crazy for real.
That's, like, so fucked.
Yeah. And the fact that he's like, I didn't know what to do.
Dude, that means, like
call 911.
He was putting her body, like, into his car, and he was like, let me make sure my fishing poles are in here.
Yeah, like he had all of his fishing gear, and he was like,
and
I'm
bait
gonna go
and
fishing.
stuff. Well, maybe he didn't have bait because he didn't fucking catch anything. But like, that's crazy. Your friend's body's burning, and you're like, I can't even look at her. Might as well fish.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's how my dad would react if my dad had killed somebody and was right next to a lake. He'd probably be fishing.
To be honest, I can see, like, a lot of people that fish doing, like, something like that. But I also
I don't think my dad would ever kill anybody, but I also
people.
feel like if he happened to have killed somebody and was burning them by a lake and he looked out at the lake and had his fishing rods, he might be like, maybe this is a good idea.
There's some good
I don't think my dad
fish
would
in
kill
here.
anybody, but also I don't think he would pass up on a chance to fish.
Generally, fishermen are pretty peaceful people, so I can't really see them, like, being
I mean, my
violent
dad,
like
he
that
goes fishing and he throws all the fish back. He doesn't even, like, keep them or nothing. He throws them back.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then the fact that he goes, I didn't mean to hurt her. Okay, then why did you backhand her?
Also, how do you hit somebody that hard that they, like, fall down and hit their head and die? Not to say that it couldn't happen, but just that it's not realistic.
Well, and she's also 53 at this point, so she is a little bit older. She may have had something underlying.
Yeah, but he's older too. How strong are you, guy?
You would be surprised at how strong an old man can be. When my grandpa, when we were still thinking that he was having, like, withdrawal from medications and we didn't really know it was dementia yet, he tried to swallow an entire bottle of ibuprofen, so I had to, like, try to take it from him, and he swung me around the entire kitchen. I had to smack it out of his hand. Yeah, he was strong. So old men are stronger than they look sometimes.
Real.
But my thing is, like, if you didn't mean to hurt her, why did you backhand her so hard that she stumbled and hit her head?
Yeah, I mean, when I don't want to hurt people, I don't hit them.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
if I'm hitting you, I want to hurt you.
Listen, if I'm hurting you, I'm probably doing it verbally because I'm not a fighter.
I do accidentally hurt people verbally a lot, and sometimes I hurt people verbally on purpose. We've all been there.
We've all been there. Jay, however, it's just crazy because, like, the entire time he's like, it was a freak accident. She was my best friend. I didn't mean to do it. And he's, like, crying, but he's covering his entire face with his hand. So, like, me personally, I don't know if I really believe that he was crying.
Yeah, that sounds fake.
I mean, the fact that
people
like,
fake
burn
cry
her
for
body,
that shit all the time.
They do. So the next
it's not
day
even like he just like in a moment of freaking out, terrified because he accidentally just killed somebody. It's not like he was in a moment of that and he like did and he like tried to hide her body. Like you went through the process of burning it. Bodies don't just catch on fire. Clothes don't just catch on fire. They might a little bit, but it really doesn't burn that well. You would have to actually put some kind of I forget the word for it, like an accelerant or whatever on the body to make it burn.
Bro went fishing while her body burned.
Yeah. Like, that's not just, like, a sudden thing that you accidentally did. When you accidentally kill somebody, and, I mean, it does happen, and sometimes those people freak out and they try to hide it because they're just freaking out. And but usually they end up hiding it very badly, and it's, like, very clear that it was rushed. You know? Yeah. So, normally, that's how it goes.
The next day, on March 4th, Jay actually agrees to take detectives to the location of Linda's remains. And unfortunately, all they find is charred bones.
Like, that means he definitely put an accelerant. Like, there's no way that it burned all the way down to just charred bones without, charred like, bones. A lot of effort put into that. So,
I don't understand how you can do that to
that's
somebody.
Like crazy. That takes a long time and a really hot fire.
Yeah.
Like,
and then the next day, which it's kind of a little ironic, but the next day on March 5th, 2012, an unidentified arsonist sets fire to Jay's house.
That's the thing I saw in an article that kind
unfortunately,
of upset me.
He wasn't home. Well, but his animals were home, and
that's what I saw. That upset me. Like,
they did.
I completely understand. Like, I mean, it's fucked to kill somebody, right? We've said that a million times.
Yeah,
but it, like, even if you were setting fire to his house was not the right way, and you just ended up killing animals that had nothing to do with it.
You should have invited him to a fishing trip and then smacked him so hard that he stumbled backwards and hit his head and then lit him on fire and finished going fishing.
I think that killing animals to me is extra upsetting because they're innocent. They're always innocent. I mean, people in these situations are innocent generally too. Like, obviously people aren't innocent as a whole, you know? Like, everybody does wrong things and, like, they don't deserve to get murdered for it. You know? Like,
agree.
She didn't deserve to die because she, like, got upset at him.
Right. Well, I think, honestly, she didn't deserve to die because she pushed his cat off of her lap.
I pushed my own cats off my lap, and I do kind of feel bad about it. But also, like, get off of me.
all the time. I don't, like, because they be getting in the way.
I also pull them into my lap. They don't like that either.
They be getting in the fucking way sometimes. I love my cats to death so much, but Roro is an asshole, and he is constantly in the way of everything all the time. Yeah. But sometimes, if I'm reaching into the oven, I gotta push him with my foot because he cannot be getting in the oven. Yeah.
I don't know if I ever told you about the time Blair got into the drawer under the oven at the old place, and we didn't we weren't turning it on or anything. Just like we were putting a pan away, and that's where we stored them. And she, like, got in somehow and nobody noticed. And then we, like, hear meowing, and we're like, where's it coming from? She's under the oven. I'm like, oh, my God, that could have been so bad.
That could have been terrible.
That was when she was only, like, a couple months old. Like, she was, like, 6 months old or something. She was bad. But, yeah, my point with that just being that, like, for me, it always hits me really hard when animals get killed or, like, die, like, senselessly somebody kills them, because I think that they're even more innocent than people. Because
they got tiny little brains.
Yeah, well, and they don't make, you know, choices. No animal chooses to be mean for just being mean, you know?
That's true.
Like, they always have a reason, except for dolphins.
Well, and the argument could be made that mosasaurs also, I know they're extinct,
they're not alive anymore.
they were very aggressive for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, dolphins are crazy, and they'll just, like, do whatever because it gives them a dopamine hit. But, like, I just mean, dolphins. Like, cats and dogs in general, and, like, most animals in general, they are just the most innocent creatures, because if they're being mean to you, they have a reason that is, like, a real, genuine reason.
You've never owned a grumpy old man rabbit.
Hey,
sometimes
he had his
they just
reasons.
wake up and they're mad. They're just mad at the world. I'm like,
Yeah,
Comet, you want a treat? And he's like, no, fuck you. I'm gonna eat your headphones.
But like, I just feel like they have like their reasons. You know what I mean? And their reasons make more sense. Like, if my cat is upset with me, like I'm pushing his boundaries, and that's the problem. Sort of thing. And most people who dislike cats, it's because they're like, oh, a cat bit me. And I'm like, what were you doing? Oh, you were pulling its tail or whatever, pushing its boundary.
Doing something to piss it off, yeah.
And like, there are dogs that will attack on sight and stuff. And you know why? It's because they're trained to do that or because their boundaries have been pushed too much. Again, they have a really good reason. Not to say that it's okay that they're attacking you, just that their reason is so genuine.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So to me, animals are always like the most innocent. And it breaks my heart that these animals died just because they happened to belong to a shitty guy.
Especially because they were burned alive.
Yeah, it's not their fault.
And that's really painful. That's a really painful thing.
Well, and they actually catch on fire because they've got a bunch of fucking fur.
Yeah, and it's just really, really, really a painful way to go. And I understand that. I don't know if this was somebody wanting retaliation for what happened to Linda. But if it was, that's not the way to do it because at the end of the day, that's an insurance claim that Jay could have filed, which would have given him more money. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I think that it does feel like it probably is related since her body was burned.
Yeah,
But I don't think it's okay to...
Oh, no, it's not okay. I don't think that the arsonist was ever found. I didn't see anything about that being found. Maybe they were.
If they were, but I also am not sure.
I feel like they would have been.
Yeah.
But
I don't think so.
Obviously, after this, Jay does get... And the reason that Jay wasn't home is because he was arrested. He was in jail for murder.
Well, it's a good thing his son wasn't home.
Yeah, his son wasn't home either.
That would also be terrible.
That would be, just because your dad's a really shitty guy, yeah.
The kid doesn't deserve to get...
I do think that his son was, like, an adult, and if he were home, maybe he could have, like, called the fire department or saved the animals. Like, that's another point that could be made. But you never know.
There's more of a chance of being able to, like, save people and things if there's somebody home. But at the same time, there's more likelihood for death. Yeah. So.
And fire is a very dangerous thing to happen in your house.
Yeah. Those people that say like, oh, just run out, like, you don't worry about getting animals out. That's crazy.
Yeah, because that's the first thing I'm doing.
Say that. Like,
the first thing
I can understand leave all your belongings
out.
Behind, right? Like,
yeah,
it sucks if you lose things that were irreplaceable too. Like if you lose photos and stuff, it sucks.
Yeah.
But if you think I'm leaving my pets or like opening the door and letting them run away, like, no, I'm grabbing them. They're going to be in my arms.
Yep.
Because my cat, if I open the door and there's a fire and they're running away from the fire, they're just going to keep running. And then they're going to get hit by a car or something, or I'm just not going to find them again.
Exactly. Like, I'm throwing them bitches in a carrier
and
we're all leaving together.
My carriers are right by the door.
Yep.
If I gotta put 3 cats into one carrier and it's bursting at the seams, whatever.
I gotta do what I gotta do.
And you know what? I'll just grab my keys on the way out from my car and I'll toss them in the car. Yep. And it's fine. They'll be fine. The dog, I don't think he'd get very far. So we could probably just let him walk out the door.
Yeah. That's a Reaver.
He would get really scared. So I don't know. Maybe he'd run. But I think if I was like, Reaver, get down! he gets scared when I use my big voice.
I'm coming.
Well, that's not how my big voice even sounds. I'm like, Reaver. And he's like, oh.
He's like, please, no, I don't like that tone of voice.
He's even like, his ears are all like sad looking because I used it just now.
Just a sad guy.
You're a good dog. You're a good dog. My poor dog. Fires. Do nothing. Yeah, it's terrible. Especially scary to me. Terrible. Just like living in a building where like I can do everything right. I can unplug everything if I want to and make sure that it doesn't come from me. But like somebody else could be stupid and leave a stove on and they start a fire and then my animals could die, and that terrifies me.
That is very terrifying. Very, very terrifying.
I want to get a house that's mine.
I know.
Where I don't have to worry about other people potentially ruining my life.
I agree.
At least if it's my own house and it's something I did, I can, know who to blame.
Getting back on topic, on July 15th, 2013, J. Eugene Roth was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole. He was charged with murder in the second degree, felonious restraint, and kidnapping. Now, the reason that he did not get charged with first-degree murder is because they didn't have evidence of premeditation. There was a lack of premeditation, which is required for murder one. So, yeah, so unfortunately
I'm just glad they
couldn't
didn't let him
there.
get, like, manslaughter because he said it was an accident,
Yeah, well,
at least he did get murder still.
His attorney tried to argue that because of his age and ill health, he should only serve 10 years. The judge rejected the plea and said that Roth was a danger to women and children, and the way that he treated Linda's body shows how he truly felt.
Yeah.
So that judge was not having any of that. He's old and sick. The judge was like, get the fuck out of here with that. I'm not playing with that.
He's old and sick. He looks like every other man in this town, okay?
He burned her body and went fishing.
He obviously isn't old and sick enough not to be able to carry a full-grown woman's body.
Exactly.
Like, he's got plenty of strength for that.
Exactly. I don't want to say that I like the way that this one ends, but I will say that I think that Jay does get a lot of karma here, because in May of 2020, he had his first parole hearing and he was denied. And then on December 11th of 2022, he was pronounced dead at 75 years old at Capital Regional Medical Center. So he's dead. Though? I don't know.
Damn.
It didn't say. Probably COVID.
Oh, honestly, that makes sense.
Yeah, because of the times,
age and everything.
So he got denied parole, and then he died.
Yeah.
In prison.
At least he can't hurt anybody else.
Exactly. And he served his life sentence because he died at the end of it, which I like that. I suppose. It works for me. Yeah. And it's funny because had he served 10 years, he still would have died in prison.
Yeah. Still would have died.
Still would have died in prison.
Deserved.
So that's all I have. Because like I said, I could not find a whole lot about this. I tried.
Yeah, I mean, I think I found the right address. I might not have even found the right address. There could be another Linda Riley that I just found the address of. So
many Linda Rileys. That's why I couldn't find the obituary, because I'm like looking through them.
I mean, I found a couple articles, but they seemed like the same thing.
Yeah, literally all of the articles were the same
arrested,
thing.
So
yeah,
I know how that feels.
I tried really hard to formulate as much of a timeline of events and how everything happened. And to be honest, they said that they didn't have any evidence of premeditation, but I feel like he did want to kill her because he was violent towards her on several different occasions.
Yeah.
Linda was scared of him. I think that he just, if I can't have her, nobody can, sort of thing.
I wish that she had kind of been there for herself, that she had stood up for herself and not been around him anymore. And then, also that, he hits you on the head, you wake up on the drive back, jump out of the fucking car or something,
Yeah, but then he could have
I'm not going back to your fucking house.
And I think that's sort of because
or if I do while you're sleeping, I'm calling the police.
Well, here's the thing
calling an Uber.
I think the first time when she woke up, she was probably kind of in a daze because she hit her head before, too. And so she probably just didn't fully realize what was going on. And I think that might be why when she woke up, she pushed Jay's cat off of her lap, got up, and went to leave. Yeah. Because she was like, I don't think that she hit him. I think she
probably just was going to the door, and then he
Yeah.
Was like, where are you going? And then she probably tried to like brush him off, and he was like, you hit me. Like,
yeah, I doubt that he was like,
I mean, even if
defending
she like
himself
snapped at
from
you,
her.
I don't think that he needed to do all that, even if she did.
And the fact that he showed up to the police station voluntarily on 3 different occasions, they did not even have to call my man in for questioning. They did not have to put a warrant out for him. They didn't have to investigate. Like, he literally just sat there and told them everything that they needed to know.
He's very dumb.
Like, it's literally so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
This whole thing, like, this literally did not need to happen. Like, all he had to do was, the first time she hit her head, was call 911 or take her to the hospital.
Yeah. It's so sad to think about that.
He didn't even try to render aid. He didn't even, like, check. I don't even think he checked to make sure she was dead before she got burned. You know?
Yeah. It's also, like, something that I've been thinking about, because it sounds like she was kind of active in, like, you know, like animal welfare, I guess. Like, she cared a lot about animals, and like my mom had a bunch of friends that were in that kind of scene. So like, this is someone that it's most likely that at least somebody that my mom knew her, sort of thing. Like, my mom had this friend that was like huge in the like animal care stuff. Like, she was always helping out with that stuff. So I feel like she could have known her, if that makes sense. And like, my mom even could have known her, sort of thing. It just seems crazy.
And it's just not very talked about. Like I said, I found videos of the first interview, and that's pretty much it. So I don't know. Yeah. It's just kind of crazy that this case isn't talked about, because I feel like it should be, which is why I wanted to talk about it. Because there's a couple wild bumps in this story. The fact that he showed up voluntarily 3 times, agreed to take a polygraph, failed the polygraph, agreed to let the detective search his house and van. What?
Dude. So I found a different thing that's actually from the government page about Linda, and the address on here is not the one that I found before. And this one is her actual address because it's on the government page. And she was a 3-minute drive from where I lived, actually.
Oh my god. That's so crazy.
Like, that's insane.
That is so crazy. You could walk there.
Yeah. That makes me think that we genuinely, like, someone, like, we could have known her. That's crazy. You might have.
That's so crazy.
Oh my god. That is so sad. Okay.
I know. It's just a really sad story.
I don't like Jay knowing that they were that close. That makes me sad.
I know. That makes me sad.
Damn. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, so I don't think I've got... I've gone off on all my tangents during it, so I don't really think I've got anything
I think I've said everything that I wanted to say.
Okay.
I've covered all of my notes. Like I said, he showed up 3 times, and he said they only argued verbally, but, you know, she already had a report in for some fuck shit that he did. So,
yeah.
If your friends are physically assaulting you, they're not your friends. Cut them out.
Yeah. If somebody is hurting you, like, that is not okay, and that is not something that you're just like, well, I want to stay friends. Don't. Because, like, I mean, obviously you're an adult. You get to make your own decisions when you're an adult, whatever, right? But it's just not... You don't want to end up like this, and your friends don't want to lose you. Your real friends and your family, they don't want to lose you.
If somebody puts their hands on you in an aggressive manner or in a manner that you do not like, that's it. That's it. They're out of your life.
I think that not enough people put themselves first. You have this one life, I mean, that we know of, right? I'm not going to say, I don't know. I don't want to diss anybody's religion or anything, so I'm not going to say that for sure. But if, like, life is short enough, don't make it shorter. Don't let people make your life shorter. You know?
And stress can cause your lifespan to shorten, and living in this day and age is stressful enough in honestly, this economy.
Just get away from people who are making your life not good to live, you know?
I'm a big fan of cutting people off.
Like, even if they're not physically putting their hands on you, if they're just someone that is not pleasant to be around, fucking get rid of them, dude. I don't...
Just cut them off.
Like, why be around somebody that is actively making you enjoy your life less?
Exactly. Enjoy your life. Do what you love.
Exactly.
Give your animals a hug and tell them you love them.
Yeah, if you have a cat, can you just kiss their little forehead for me?
And because Linda was such an avid dog lover, I just want to say, if you have a dog, give him a hug for her.
Yeah, give him a bacon treat.
Give him a little smooch on the head.
So true, so true. I mean, I have a dog. I've also got a lot of cats, so that's why I said cats.
I also have a lot of cats, and I don't have a dog.
Adopt animals.
But my grandma has been considering adopting a dog at some point. We've been talking about it, so
nice.
Maybe I can have a little puppy. Goes. I will keep you updated.
Real.
All
right. I guess we're closing out this episode.
Yes, we are.
Bye, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
I hope Kota sounds better in this one, because she just got a new microphone today.
Yes, thank you, Candy, for the new microphone. I love it. I appreciate you.
And hopefully our audio, you know, hopefully it sounds really good for all the listeners. And
it better.
I think it sounds good, so.
I hope it does.
All right. Bye, people.
Bye.